And we are live. How is it going, everyone? Andrew and Ryan coming here with a little bit of breaking news for you. Just reported about an hour ago, Antonio Brown will be signing a one-year deal to join Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yes.
Holy cow. AB is back in the league. His suspension is up week 8. But he is primed to make his debut in Week 9 for the Bucs, and when they take on the New Orleans Saints, that should be one hell of a matchup.
And not wait.
It's going to be crazy. AB primed to make a return back to the NFL. We're going to see him again this year, which is crazy because Adam Schefter reported about a month ago that we weren't going to see AB this year. Like, even when his suspension was up, like, slim to none chances. However, now the reports are coming out that that the Bucs have been keeping tabs on AB for a while now, and things moved by really quickly in the last couple days here, and they really started heating up. But the Bucs have been kind of quietly doing their due diligence on AB for a while now. They make the move. I think it's a smart move to get it done now. You get AB in the building, you have him go through his physical. He's got to go through a mandatory 5-6 days of quarantine. Why not have him do that during the final week of his suspension? Get him in the building, get him the playbook, get him introduced to the organization, get him up to speed, and then allow him, a week or two to kind of hit the playbook hard and just be ready to go to catch some passes from Tom Brady in Week 9. What's your thoughts on this, Ryan? This is crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely big news. So we've been talking for a couple days about where we thought he might go after all of a sudden there was talks that he was coming back, and it looked like Seattle was going to be the team. It looked like, and there was so much buzz about that, and we were talking, man, like, how crazy would it be to have Lockett and Metcalf and Brown on the field at the same time? And now, essentially, the same thing has happened now down in Tampa. You've got Evans, Godwin, and Brown on the field at the same time. Not to mention all those other weapons like Gronk. I mean, he's in the twilight of his career, but he's starting to look around. He's been starting to play better the last few weeks. You got Bray when O.J. Howard's healthy. You got Fournette. You've got Ron Jones, who's looked like an absolute beast so far this year.
And you got a really good offensive line.
Got a great offensive line and a good young defense. Like, that team, Tampa Bay, AB could put Tampa Bay over the top.
Yeah.
They were already not a favorite necessarily, especially the way they've been playing. I mean, we knew they would be competitive going into the year. But I think adding that extra weapon of AB, if he can come in and be productive and adapt and get used to the offense and everything relatively quickly, I mean, that dude, like, he's just a catching machine. Mm-hmm. Like, think about what he did in one game with Tom Brady last year in New England.
He had 8 targets, 4 catches, 56 yards, and a touchdown. And I believe that is only while playing a limited number of snaps, too.
Correct.
He
did not play all the snaps. No, they were just getting him, acclimated to the offense. So, like, he didn't even play all the snaps. So,
yeah, he played like 15 to 20, like 15 to 20 snaps or something like that. He really didn't play too many snaps in that game, which I think when he was in there, when they put him in, he saw, I think, 50% or more of the targets. Tom Brady looked his way early and often. Do you think that even with, I know it's a whole different system, and there's some crazy weapons there with Godwin and Evans, but do you think that Brown becomes Brady's favorite?
It's hard to say just because it's so hard to tell because, like, Brady, for every single year that he played in New England, never had these weapons. So it's so hard to tell because we're always all like, oh, Tom Brady's the best at distributing the ball. Like, he's perfect at it. He's always finding the open guy. But maybe it's just because outside of the 1 year with Randy Moss where he had that big target and they threw how many touchdowns together that year? A ridiculous amount. But outside of that, he's never really had that big-time true stud playmaker from a receiver standpoint. Yes, Gronk at tight end. So I don't know. I mean, it'll be interesting to see. So I think that Mike Evans and Chris Godwin will definitely still be involved. But if AB comes in there, they got a relationship already. Tom Brady loves Antonio Brown.
He's only in Tampa because Brady wants him in Tampa.
Correct.
I mean, he's Brady's guy. So
right.
Brady's not going to bring you in unless he loves you. And I feel like if Brady's the advocate and he's the reason to go in, I mean, I'm not saying that he's going to be like the go-to guy in Tampa, but I wouldn't be surprised if he becomes his favorite by the end of the year and he sees the lion's share of targets. But Brady's always kind of spread the ball around very well. It's what he does.
Right.
And but it's also not like it's his first year in Tampa. It's not like he's got the greatest of chemistry with Evans or Godwin either. I mean, they went through training camp together, but Evans has been hurt. He's missed games. Godwin's missed multiple games. They've really only played a couple games together with Brady. Brown's going to be coming in there. He's going to not be too much further behind chemistry-wise than Godwin and Evans is, I feel. So it's not like he's got a huge amount of catch-up to play there.
No.
And Arians loves throwing to the receivers.
Yep.
Can never have enough good receivers in that Bruce Arians offense. I'm not saying that Brown's going to come in and, catch 10-plus balls each and every week, but I wouldn't be surprised if he sees potentially 10 targets, after the first few weeks going forward.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I wouldn't be surprised either, but it'll definitely be interesting to see on what happens. If Tom Brady stays as the Tom Brady of old and throws the ball to Gronk 3 times, Godwin 3 times, Evans 6 times, and Brown 6 times. You know what I mean? Like, it'll be interesting to see. Or if all of a sudden Brown's putting him in the slot, like, that's going to be unbelievable.
Such a mismatch.
I mean, you can move him around. Even if you move him and Godwin on different opportunities, maybe whoever's having a better day or whoever, but it's such a mismatch.
So think about this. For the first time in Antonio Brown's career, he's gonna have like the third cornerback on a team covering him.
Yeah.
He's never had that. And when he's had the last time he was like from like 2012 to 2018 as a starter in Pittsburgh, he had routinely the number one corner trying to shut him down each and every week. Game plans were designed to stop him. The man still averaged 103 catches a year and 1,400 yards. And now and now he's coming in and he's expected to like maybe wide cornerback 3 or cornerback 2 covering him.
Corner, maybe a nickel corner, or if you slide, the thing is, if they slide their top corner in, if they're running him in the slot a lot, if they slide their top guy in and change the way that they're essentially their defense, which a lot of teams will not do, but if they do that, you're opening up the outside for Godwin or Evans. Like, I
think he's gonna, because he's not gonna have that number one corner on him from the get-go. I think he's gonna have game rust. It's inevitable that he will. But because he doesn't have the number one corner on him, it's not going to be as noticeable. Like a rusty, getting back into game shape Antonio Brown, but being covered by a team's third corner is a wash, really. It's going to be kind of like he's going to look a lot like the Antonio Brown of old because he's not going to be drawing that immediate attention from the –
And they've said a lot of the reports, the reports, obviously, just like the reports that – Seattle's a front runner. He's definitely going to Seattle. We know how that turned out.
Smoke screens, man.
Smoke screens. But a lot of the reports are saying that a lot of guys, including Russell Wilson, even Tom, they're talking that he's his character and he has changed quite a bit for, it's to be seen, obviously, but there's talks out there that, AB is kind of, he's ready to come back. He's not dealing with what he was dealing with from an emotional side of things there when he kind of went off the deep end there for a little bit. So, I mean, either obviously it's still AB. He's still going to have some of that. But who knows? Maybe he comes in here, man, and he just lights it up. I'm excited to watch this team. I am very excited. And I'm excited to have Tom Brady on my fantasy team now, too.
Well, I think it's a good move. It's a good football move. Like, off the field things disregarded. That's a whole nother topic. But from a football standpoint, I see it as a complete win-win for the Bucs.
Yep.
They didn't sign him to a big money multi-year deal. It's a 1-year deal where he comes in and he gets a chance to prove himself, and he gets a chance to help the offense, and he gets a chance to give Tom Brady another Super Bowl and help bring a Super Bowl to Tampa. Yep. And if he can do that, he can repair his image, and he can move on maybe like next year to another team and maybe secure a longer-term deal with a little bit more money. So he's got a lot to prove. If things don't work out, they can cut him. It's not like they're going to be hurting for receivers. It's not like the offense is going to be, a shell of itself.
Yep.
You're still going to have weapons all over the place. It's just kind of a rich get richer type scenario. And if it doesn't work out, oh well. Like, we're still going to be just fine.
Yep.
So
just it.
It's like a good move, I think, for the organization from a football standpoint.
It's unbelievable. This guy is arguably the best receiver.
Yeah.
To ever play the game. Arguably. He has to be in there, like you said. Averaging 103 receptions a year and 1,400 yards. And how many touchdowns?
Yeah.
Did you mention that? It's just
I didn't mention it, but probably around 10, I'm guessing.
A
lot goes to be said about everyone likes to bring up the fact that he'd be like a locker room cancer, be a distraction, this and that.
But
I don't see that, mainly because of the fact that Tom Brady wants him on the team so bad. Tom Brady is so obsessed with winning Super Bowls.
Yes.
And Tom Brady will do everything to make sure that he gives himself the best chance to win a Super Bowl. If Tom Brady felt like bringing in Antonio Brown was going to be a cancer to the locker room or have a negative impact on his chances to win a Super Bowl, Tom Brady wouldn't sign off on this. Tom Brady's the one that brought this guy in. Let's not make any qualms about it. So, man, I'm going to put more faith in Tom Brady than some analyst I hear on ESPN or CBS or Barstool or something like that. Tom Brady's going to know more about Brown than them. So,
no doubt. And like you said, they've got a relationship, man. They've got a relationship.
It's crazy. It's crazy to have such a relationship, too, that he wants him so bad. It's clear Brady wants this guy on the team so freaking bad. He got him to New England. They played one game together.
Yeah.
He looked phenomenal in the one game. He was going to tear it up in New England that year. If Brady had his way, they would have never gotten rid of him in New England. He goes to Tampa. He abdicates from there. He gets him to come into Tampa now. Now it's going to be Brady and AB 2.0. And I feel like almost Tom can be a little petty at times sometimes too. And I feel like he might also want to pepper Antonio Brown with some crazy targets and make him look phenomenal. Just as kind of like a fuck you to the Patriots organization for getting rid of him and getting rid of Brown, and kind of like an F you to all the other ones out there. I can just see it doing and be like, hey, you guys want to shit on me and AB and this and that? Look, we'll just destroy you all. Me and him.
Always plays with a chip on his shoulder. Always. Since he got drafted, he's always played with a chip on his shoulder. Since going to the 6th round, man. That's just the way he plays. How
pumped does AB have to be right now to be getting a chance to go play with Tom Brady again right now?
It's if AB he's got it.
It's a mutual feeling. He wants to play with Tom Brady just as bad.
And think about this. Like we said, third corner. He's never had the opportunity. Think about the numbers he put up with them game planning for him and putting their top corner on him every single week. Think about the opportunity and the numbers that this guy could put up. Granted, he's only going to get 9 games, or he's coming in week 9. So, he virtually lost more than half of a season, obviously. So, but I'm excited. That offense is going to be potent. It already was, or already could be. They were just kind of starting to hit their stride, I think. So, it's going to be fun to watch.
I mean, just kind of think about
if they're NFC teams, but
if Brown rounds into form and is even like half of the player that he was, just think about being a defensive coordinator and having to cover game plan around that. How do you game plan for 3 Pro Bowl receivers?
I don't know because then
it's gonna be like the Pro Bowl. The Bucs are a walking Pro Bowl team almost, I feel like.
And the crazy part about it is okay, we're going to do everything we can and we're going to put as many packages together as we can to stop these receivers. Ron Jones and Leonard Fournette have shown and looked good this year already. So then they're just going to run the ball and they're going to beat you anyway by controlling the clock and pushing the ball down the field.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think you see just about every team playing some type of a zone against Tampa going forward, which sucks because Tom Brady can pick apart a zone at this point. He knows all the soft spots, and all those receivers are good enough to just kind of sit down in the open spot in the zones. It's going to be so hard. It's going to be so hard to defend that.
And like we said, don't forget about Gronkowski, Brate, and Howard.
Yeah.
I mean,
pick your poison, man. Yeah, this move also kind of slightly – I mean, the stats might be down a little bit for each because now there's even more mouths to feed. But from a productivity standpoint, I mean, he's going to have someone to throw to on almost every play, I feel like. It's just going to be crazy. So it's going to be fun to watch.
And if he does what Tom Brady does and constantly finds that open guy and throws it to the open dude, that offense is going to be very hard to stop.
So
very hard.
So, based on our consensus right now, if you're a fantasy owner and Brown's somehow still available, is it a no-brainer to go pick him up?
Yes, absolutely. Going into that Tampa offense, he's going to be
in all leagues or even an 8-man league.
Maybe not an 8-man league. 8-man league, you might want to wait and see what happens because you're going to have enough talent in that 8-man league, depending on how deep the benches are.
So 10 and more. 10 and more, he's an automatic speculative pickup?
10 or more, I would say he's an automatic speculative pickup because you got guys sitting on your bench probably let's just throw something out there, like a Cole Beasley or, one of those guys that are around,
Would you drop a player that's maybe ranked in the 30s or 40s for him?
It gets tough there because those guys –
So we're talking like the Keelan Coles, the LaVisca Chenaults, the Cole Beasleys, the John Browns. You'd be fine with dropping them for an Antonio Brown?
I would say depending on how strong the rest of your receivers are. You know what I mean? So if you have 2 decent receivers that you're starting every week, so if you've got a Julio Jones, and he's another topic, but – so we'll just say a Julio Jones, and then your wide receiver 2 is a Cooper Kupp or something like that, where you went early on and you got him, and then you got Kupp in the 3rd or 4th round. So if you went Julio second, if you've got something like that where you've got a couple receivers or you have decent depth where you're willing to drop one of those guys, yes, I would say go for it because at worst, I think – you're going to be picking up a flex play. You know what I mean? At worst, I think you're picking up a flex play. It might take him a few weeks, but if he's a flex play or a wide receiver 2 going into the playoffs for you, that's –
So you see him as a legit flex play rest of the season, maybe after the first couple weeks, get acclimated after that?
I think after he gets acclimated, yes, because I think, like you said, Bruce Arians, that man loves to throw the football. That's his – granted, he likes doing the deep pass pretty much, you know what I mean? But him and Brady have sort of started to kind of find it together. You know what I mean? they've sort of started to put it together. So where they're coming together and it's not all deep balls, it's not all short passes like Brady used to do. It's coming together well. So I think going forward he will be a flex play. I really do.
So a solid flex starter for you rest of the season,
yes,
with a full healthy Bucs roster.
Full healthy Bucs roster, yes. I think he still is a flex play because I think he's going to get, like we talked about, he's going to get, even if he gets 5 targets, right? More than likely he's catching 4 of them as long as Brady's not totally off or, the defense is playing well. And that's more than likely one of them could be a touchdown. So you can run that risk and, you're putting yourself around 10 points right there. With the yardage, and if it's full PPR. Non-full PPR, be careful. If it's not a PPR and it's a standard league, be careful with that.
Where do you see Brown in terms of red zone opportunities? So you already got Mike Evans there, who's a big red zone target. You still got Gronk, who's a big red zone target. Do you see Brown making a dent in with the touchdowns, or no? I only see him maybe scoring maybe 2 or 3 touchdowns, maybe rest of the season, more or less.
I would say by the time coming in at week 9, I would go a little higher than that. I'd say I'd put him in the 4 to 6 range. Not much higher, but 4 to 6 range. And I only say that because if they remember when Cooper Kupp had Cooks and Woods on the outside there, and he was just catching touchdowns like crazy. If not that Bruce Arians' scheme is the same as McVay's, but if he kind of falls into that slot role where he finds, if they're at the, 10, they're in the red zone, okay, and he finds that open hole if they're playing a zone defense dropping, I could see it there. So, but that's reasonable.
So I actually kind of mentioned you kind of dropping the slot thing. I actually don't think Antonio Brown lines up in the slot. I think Chris Godwin is that slot receiver now. Yep, I see Chris Godwin as a slot receiver, and I see kind of Antonio Brown lining up on the outside there with Mike Evans on the other side. So
yeah, and like I said, that's why kind of at the beginning of the show I said maybe they move him around. Maybe they put Godwin in there sometimes. Maybe they flip it. But exactly, it could be.
Can you imagine just being a cornerback and you're seeing the next and the Bucs go like trips on one side of the field and you're cornerback 2 or cornerback 3 and you're looking over at your other cornerback because you're side by side with these trips and you're just and then you look across the field and you just see Evans, Godwin, and Brown all lined up together, and they're all about to come at you. You're just oh, fuck.
Getting ready to eat, man.
Here we go. And then you look at the quarterback, and you happen to see the greatest quarterback of all time that's about to snap that ball and throw them the ball. Holy cow. Great.
Yeah.
It's going to be a long day. It's going to be a long day. Yeah.
And there's a lot of defenses that are going to have a long day going forward with this offense, I think.
So this is the type of offensive roster. Now, I'm not going to go crazy and say on paper, this is a nasty team on paper. Yeah. Now, we all know that teams have tried to build these super teams before, and they just don't work out because football is an ultimate team sport. It's not an individual sport. Right. So this could blow up, but I'm talking in a best case scenario here. And what I feel like there's more upside than downside here. I think this is going to be one that works out well for them. And I would put this offense up against any defense in the league, the best of the best defenses. And I don't think that you really can find a way to truly shut them down. I think the best way to get to this, to beat them now, is to just kind of get consistent pressure on Tom Brady, but you got to make sure that you got a nasty pass rush that can get there fast because you know
Oh, yeah.
Brady already gets it out fast.
He's getting it out quick, man. He's getting it out quick.
And those receivers are going to be able to break press coverage every time. I mean, it's just going to be hard to defend, dude. You got to play a really good team game all around.
All around.
Can you imagine like a Bucs Chiefs Super Bowl or something like that now this year? Like that'd be crazy.
It'd be nuts.
The NFL would love that.
It'd be so fun to watch from a fan standpoint. Not that I don't like good defense. I love some great defensive games. I really do. But at the same time, when you got that firepower out there on offense and just watching those offenses, those really explosive offenses, it's fun to watch.
So you have him as after first probably a couple weeks getting acclimated, but after that you see him as a solid weekly flex starter with upside.
Yes,
with upside. I would agree as well. I see him also kind of taking a week or two to get acclimated, but I see him being solid weekly. I see him probably scoring his floor being around like a 10 to 12 weekly point range, really.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. And that's his floor, and he can have bigger games from there. I think you see him have, his floor for targets are going to be probably the 6 to 8 range there. I think you're going to see him kind of average on like a low floor. He's going to get 4 to 5 catches on like a bad day. On those bad days, 4 to 5 catches for 50, 60 yards, which is still enough in a PPR league to give you around 10 points.
Yep, that's exactly agreed. Yep.
That's kind of where it, and then he might throw in the occasional touchdown or two that might bump you up to a 16, 17 points, and that's a great week for a fantasy play for a flex play there.
Yep.
And then I think there's also going to be times when just based on the coverages and the game plans, like pick your poison. They choose to shut down Evans or Godwin. Brown might feast on that. You might see a game where Brown puts up, 8, 9, 10 catches for 100 yards and a score or something like that. And that's a monster week.
That's a big week. Yep.
If Evans and Godwin have been consistently hurt all year, and you got to wonder if maybe they also made this move because the Bucs are aware of maybe some lingering injuries that might last the whole year.
Yes.
So if things were to happen to Evans or Godwin, were they to miss games or miss extended periods of time, how do you see Brown's value then going forward? Like, what does he become? Does it go up for you? Does it go down for you? He'll have better corners probably on him at that point, but could potentially have more targets coming his way. How do you see that playing out?
I see that benefiting him. Okay, so, and I only say that, yes, he'd have better corners, but hopefully by that point, he's in the offense. He's kind of, granted, it could happen next week, obviously. But as he gets used to that offense and as him and Brady start to kind of get a connection, he will get more targets. And I think just those more targets and then that definite target share increasing, it'll definitely increase his value. I think at that point he goes to a wide receiver 2 with upside. I only say wide receiver 2 because same thing. Brady spreads the ball around. He's still got Godwin. He's still got Gronk. He's still got those other guys. They're still going to try and run the ball a little bit, I think, and use Jones and things like that. So, but I would say wide receiver 2 with upside of a wide receiver 1 on weeks where, like you just talked about, where, he's targeted more depending on game flow and depending how things go. And if he gets those red zone targets, so say it's Mike Evans that goes down, that might be an opportunity for Brown to get some more of those red zone targets. Not that I think Brown's a great red zone receiver, but he is at the same time because he catches everything. It takes is a little bit of separation.
So if you are a fantasy owner and you have Brown right now, are you holding him or are you looking to trade?
Yeah.
Are you looking to hold or sell on him right now?
I'm looking to hold right now.
Okay.
But I guess it depends. It does depend on give me a second. Pause it.
All right, through the miracle of editing, We took a quick break, and you guys didn't even realize it because we were mid-conversation and took a quick break, and next thing you know, a second later, we're talking about something completely different. So welcome back, Ryan. We're just going to kind of finish up our conversation on AB, on what would happen if Godwin or Evans were to miss time. What would that do for his fantasy stock? I believe you were discussing that he moves up to a wide receiver 2 for you for the rest of the season, right?
Yep, definitely wide receiver 2 with the possibility of 1, like we were talking about with Bruce Arians. They're still going to chuck the ball. That's the way the offense is built, even though Jones is running the ball really well right now, and Fournette there, you're going to have that, but they're still going to pass the ball. And less mouths to feed. He's going to get more red zone targets at that point. So, yes, wide receiver 2 with the upside of a wide receiver 1.
I am going to echo that sentiment. I'm just going to kind of firmly put him in like a mid wide receiver 2 pack, though consistently.
That's fair. That's fair.
Even when Evans or Godwin were out there, they really weren't putting up like legit wide receiver 1 numbers this year. And then I think it's impossible to not forget that take away that Patriot game, that one game he played.
It's been a long time.
Almost 2 years since this man's played some football. He's gonna have some rust, and it's gonna take a while for him to shake this off. Now I know he's been keeping in good shape, and I'm sure he's in fine physical shape. He does own his own workout, company, and works out regularly. We've all seen the Instagram videos of his daily workouts, but there is something to be said between being in football shape and being in good physical shape. But I do see him as a legit wide receiver 2 if Evans or Godwin were to miss extended time with a significant injury. Moving forward to our winding down to our last part here.
And I'm going to say back end wide receiver 1 with that upside, obviously.
Yeah.
But go ahead. Keep going.
So things stand right now. Give all the receivers a blank slate. Like pretend the year just started, so there's no rankings and no stats. Rest the season, starting in week 9. Where does Antonio Brown finish if the season were to start all over again in week 9 and go to the end of the season? At what rank would he finish at the end of the year?
So you're asking, top 10, top 20, top 30.
Yep.
Essentially. I'm going to say top 25. I'm going to say top 25. If everyone's healthy in that offense, like we said before, he's going to be between that 30, 25, 20 range. I'm going to say top 25 because I'm just going to rank him higher. If it started right now, I'm going to rank him higher than some of those other flex plays just because of how potent that offense is, which will drive him towards the 25 to 20 range rather than the 30 to 25 range. And that's already –
25 would put him around, low end wide receiver 2. So
yep, low end wide receiver 2, flex range towards the 30. You know what I mean? Like right in that range. That's where I put him. Just out of the sheer fact that I really do think it has been 2 years since he's played, but I think it's Antonio Brown, and he was such a weapon. And the man, we've all seen what he can do. Granted, could be proved wrong, and maybe he comes out and he throws up duds. I just don't see it happening.
Yeah.
Especially in that offense. So I would say, like I said, top 25, right around that 25 to 20 range, back end wide receiver 2 flex.
All right. So you're a fantasy manager right now. All right. We're going to kind of take some players who are hovering around that 25 range. I'm going to throw them out there to you. Would you trade that player for Antonio Brown
right now?
If it was, going for it, if that's your belief. So, Devontae Parker, usually he's kind of sitting around that 25 mark. Who would you rather have rest of the year, Devontae Parker or Antonio Brown?
I'm going to say Antonio Brown. And the reason I say that is now Tua is the starter, and I think Tua is going to go through some rookie growing pains. Obviously, everyone's talking. They're like, these guys, they must be seeing this in practice because Fitzpatrick was playing well and blah, blah. I don't care. It's practice. He's going up against the second stringers. He's going, it's not like he's even playing the first string defense. He was 2 for 2 with 9 yards or something like that. He's going to go through rookie growing pains. They all do. So I'm going to go with Antonio Brown because he's got the veteran quarterback. We know they love throwing the ball, and he's going to be in that offense, and they're going to use a lot of 3 wide receiver sets. And if they don't, and like you said, if he ends up on the outside and they're running those 2, he's going to be out on the – I mean, it'll be him and Godwin probably because Godwin knows that offense well enough probably by now on those 2 wide receiver sets. But he's still going to be seeing the field quite a bit, and it's Tom Brady and not a rookie Tua. Granted, Tua, I like Tua. I think he's going to be a good quarterback, but I would rather have Brown at this point than Parker.
Marquise Brown or Antonio Brown?
The cousins.
The cousins.
The cousins. Marquise will always be that, well, right now for anyway, because Baltimore really has no one outside of him at the wide receiver position anyway. I mean, they got Andrews at tight end there. But, man, that one's tough. I'm going to say Antonio. I like Antonio's change. That Baltimore offense just has never really had receiver. You know what I mean? From a fantasy standpoint, receiver.
He's really boomer bust.
Right. He's boomer bust. He's never thrived. Where, like we talked about before, Antonio Brown in that Tampa offense, he's going to give you between 8 and 15 on average. You know what I mean? Like
Marquise Brown really reminds me of like a poor man's Tyreek Hill, kind of.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's essentially, yes. Antonio.
Antonio Brown or Tyler Boyd?
Man, that one's tough too because Burrow is he's in that same Tua atmosphere, but he's already kind of started those growing pains, and he's proven that he can do it a little bit, so he's not totally unknown. That one's pretty tough. That one's pretty tough. Especially, I just want to throw this in there. If they trade A.J. Brown, I would say Boyd because I feel like Boyd's going to get more targets.
You mean A.J. Green?
Or A.J. Green, A.J. Green, not A.J. Brown.
In a PPR league right now, Tyler Boyd's currently sitting at 17. But A.J. Green did have a really good game last week. He's been putting up some duds lately. Potentially he's getting more integrated into the offense, but it's 1 week. It could have just been a simple game flow plan. But Boyd's been seeing, around 8 targets a game, catching around 7 balls a game for around like 80 yards. I mean,
that's why I'm saying it's tough. He's fallen right into that range or just above that range that we've been talking about for Antonio. So I would say you keep Boyd at this point, especially if there's a Green trade. From a volume and production standpoint.
Antonio Brown or Jamison Crowder?
Man, that Jets offense is bad.
Yeah, Crowder's been eating though.
Crowder is, like we talked about on our last podcast, Crowder is really that only weapon in that offense, especially from a fantasy standpoint, that's really been producing. So they're gonna be down, so they're gonna have to throw. I'm gonna say Crowder.
Yeah, Crowder's currently in a full PPR league. Crowder's ranked 25th right now. So you said Brown's around that 25 mark. Crowder is that 25 guy going into week 7 right now. He's put up and he's missed a couple games.
I was going to say he's missed a couple games, so therefore he really would be probably top 20 if he didn't miss those games.
He is averaging 20 points per game in a full PPR league. He has not caught less than 7 balls per game. He's only had 1 game where he's had less than 100 yards receiving, which was last week. He's seen either 13 or 10 targets in every game he's played in so far, and he's caught touchdowns. He's averaging half of a touchdown a game right now. I mean, he is on a tear. he's missed 2 games. If he had that production, he'd be
a top 10.
He'd be a top 10 receiver right now.
He'd be between 20 and 10 or a top 10. He'd be right around that 12 to 8 range probably, which you're definitely keeping Crowder in that standpoint. And like I was going to say before you started all those stats, they're going to be down. They're going to have to throw. They're constantly going to be down. And you're going to see all that production, and it might be garbage time, but they're still going to be feeding him the rock.
Yeah. So if you're a fantasy owner, you're thinking about it, I'm keeping Crowder over Antonio Brown on this one. My next one, DJ Moore. Would you rather have Antonio Brown or DJ Moore?
Robbie has really been the one that's been producing in that offense. Robbie Anderson. So I'm still gonna say, I know it's full PPR. I'm still gonna say DJ Moore. I'm gonna go with DJ Moore. Even though I know
only ranked 22.
I was gonna say he's right on that range. I know he's right there.
He's averaging 13 points per game. He has not missed any games yet. However, he's kind of averaging around 4 to 5 receptions a game, around that 50, 60-yard mark. Only 1 touchdown on the year, and there's only 2 games where he's seen double-digit targets so far. His highest game so far is 20 fantasy points. It came in week 2 against Tampa. So
essentially, he's falling right into that category of what we just talked about with Brown.
He's kind of falling into that high flex, low wide receiver too.
And in that case, right now, I would say you keep Moore because you know what you're getting with him, as opposed to Brown. You have no idea. We're just speculating.
I would agree as well.
That's what he's going to do, but we don't know. Yep.
Antonio Brown or Juju Smith-Schuster?
Juju. I say Juju. I know Claypool's coming up.
Yep.
I know Deontay's showing. I might be right now just kind of going on the fact that I think Juju and Big Ben still have their thing. I know it hasn't been great so far.
I think it's a matter of time. I think it's going to come. I think it's just a game flow thing, man. I mean.
But you're going to run into the same things with Brown, I think.
Yeah.
And we don't know, where at least you know right now, kind of like with DJ Moore, that, Juju's going to be out there. He's still going to get those targets. If Claypool starts playing better, which, I mean, he's doing great for what he's been dealt, there is a lot of weapons there, and Connor's been playing really well too. If something happened to Connor, I think that opens up Juju more. But right now, I think, I'm going with Juju.
So at the moment, I think I probably would go with Juju too, but it's pretty close, man.
It's close.
So if you look at all the numbers, Juju's currently ranked 39th in the league. Now they have had a bye week, which came in week 4. He's averaging 12.5 points per game right now. He had that big dud last week, which really affected him, where 2 catches for 6 yards. You take away that game, he's averaging around 5 receptions a game. He's getting that on about so he's actually been really consistent. So on a target to reception ratio, he's caught just about everything that's been thrown his way. So week 1, 6 catches on 6 targets. Week 2, 7 catches on 8 targets. Week 3, 4 catches on 5 targets. Week 5, 4 catches on 5 targets. He's only had 3 in that span right there. There's only been 3 targets that he has not caught going forward. So if he just gets more targets going forward, he's going to put up some monster numbers. He just hasn't gotten the targets yet. He's been getting around, 5 to 6 targets a game. The man, if the man gets 12, 13 targets in a game, he's going to put up 10 plus catches in that game based on how it's going. So I'm probably going with Juju. He's still young. He's 23, super talented. Big Ben said in multiple press conferences that he's still the wide receiver 1. He's the leader in the room. It's just kind of the flow of the game. I think Juju's time is coming. And it might be this week against the 29th ranked Titans defense. I'm going to throw a couple more out here at you, and then we'll kind of wrap it up from there. Antonio Brown or Terry McLaurin?
With Kyle Allen now at quarterback, McLaurin's value and his production has went down a little bit in the last couple of weeks, but I'm still taking McLaurin.
Yep, McLaurin's currently ranked 14th. He's averaging 15 points per game, and he's seeing around 10 targets a game right now.
Yep. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, his productions went down. They kind of fall into the same category as the Jets with Crowder. They're going to be chucking the ball. They got no choice because they're going to be losing. Like, it's just – the offense isn't very productive, though, which is the same thing that you fall into with the Jets. So he's getting those targets, but the quarterback play is not as good. So they might have threw it to him, but it wasn't even close to catchable. So it's still a target because they threw it towards him, but it was a relatively uncatchable ball. So I think that'll get a little bit better as Kyle Allen plays a little bit more at this point, or if you end up with an Alex Smith in there at quarterback, which could happen. I think you'll see a bump there. So I'm going with Scary Terry, baby.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that one. Antonio Brown or CeeDee Lamb?
Ooh, with Dalton.
So CeeDee Lamb, only one game so far with Andy Dalton. However, stats look pretty comparable to that so far in a one-game sample. But he, at the moment in a full PPR league, CeeDee Lamb is the 10th receiver in the league. He's averaging 16.5 points. He is getting around 8 to 9 targets per game, and he's putting up about 5 or 6 receptions per game. And he's averaging around 80 yards or so per game. He's scored double-digit points in every game this year in a full PPR league. His lowest game being 11, his highest game being 25.
Dallas also kind of falls into that category of what we just talked about. However, with McLaurin and Crowder, there's no one else really outside of those guys for weapons. Where with CeeDee Lamb, I know he's put up great numbers and he's doing great for a rookie. But he's got Cooper and Gallup. So there's definitely more weapons. And you've got Zeke. Falls into the – I'm going with CD, honestly, in this one, out of the fact that he has been productive. You know what you're getting with him. He's had a pretty good year. He's young. He's fresh. This is a close one for me, and I only say that because I know Dak's out the rest of the year, and there's so many other weapons in that offense. I know that this offense has a ton of weapons, but you've got Brady, and now you've got Andy Dalton, and they're still trying to figure out who's going to be that guy that gets open because Andy's more of the Brady type, so it's not necessarily Dak. I'm going with CD still just out of the production that he's had, and you know what you're getting. But I think the rest of the year, I think CD and Brown will be close production-wise. Okay,
so there's a pretty good comp of where you're feeling that where Brown's production is going to be going forward the rest of the season. I can get behind that. How about we end it with one last one? We're going to do Will Fuller. Will Fuller's currently the 12th ranked receiver in a full PPR league. He's averaging 16 points per game. He's getting around 8 targets per game. He's been really efficient with those targets, though, catching just about everything goes his way with about 6 catches per game. And he's averaging about 80, 90 yards per game.
I would say Will Fuller on this one, and I think his production, I know Cooks is kind of coming into the fold here, but that offense has looked a lot better the last 2 weeks, a lot better. So Fuller, depending on what happens with where this offense goes, you could see a slight decrease, but he's been consistent. I think, they're still going to continue throwing at this point now. David Johnson's been and even the last 2 weeks he's been okay. So, yes, I'm going to go Will Fuller. I really do like Will Fuller. He's a talented dude. Like you said, the man can catch the ball. You've got Watson throwing it to him. who's going to, if a play breaks down, he can make something happen and get it out there deep to Fuller. The main thing you got to worry about with Fuller, which has happened since day one, but this is barring not this not happening, is him getting hurt. But you got that with any player, essentially. He just seems to be a little bit more injury prone than others at times. But the man is talented. I'm going with Will Fuller on this one.
Okay. That's respectable. My last question for you is, all things considered, who rest of the season, who's going to finish with the best stats in a vacuum on the Bucs? Like, who's going to put up the most stats rest of the season? Evans, Godwin, or Brown?
Evans. And I only say Evans because I think him and Brady have already got that rapport in the red zone. So I think all those red zone targets, not all, but the majority of those red zone targets are going to Evans. So you're talking one catch for 1 yard is more points than, 3 catches for 30, or it's about the same. You know what I mean? So, and then you add in a few of those receptions. That's why I'm going with Evans, just the sheer red zone target volume.
Okay. Would you still put Godwin too over Brown?
I think Godwin and Brown. That one's tough.
Or do you think Godwin and Brown kind of finish with similar stats the rest of the year?
I think they're going to finish with similar stats. They're similar players. You know what I mean? Like Brown is very proven in what he's done, but he hasn't played football in 2 years. Godwin really had a great year last year, but they were also throwing the ball 50 times a game. So you know what I mean? It's they're very similar players with the speed and getting open, finding the holes. They're not going to – Godwin caught a lot of touchdowns last year, but there was also a lot of deep touchdowns that he caught. And I think, like I said, they're going to focus more on Evans in that red zone. So I think, him and Brown will be very similar the rest of the year.
Okay. We'll do a quick little lip service to the rest of the deadline here. With Seahawks missing out on Antonio Brown, do you see the Seahawks making a play at any of those other rumored trade mill receivers? So we're talking A.J. Green, Odell Beckham, Julio Jones, John Ross, any of those players? Or do you they do got Josh Gordon potentially in the wings, but who knows with that or no?
I don't see them necessarily going after a Julio Jones or anyone like that. I don't see him bringing on those huge contracts. Maybe they take a flyer on a John Ross because they can get him for really cheap and his contract's not a big contract. But I think their production right now with the guys they have outside with Lockett and Metcalf, I think that's been good enough. And then you've also got Moore, correct? David Moore. He's not great, and John Ross would kind of fill into that same role, though. But Ross is a bigger name, essentially, if you want to call it that, who had bigger upside initially. Maybe, but I think the chances, I would give that like a 30% chance or under at this point.
Okay.
To go after one of those names. I don't think they want to bring on that contract at this point.
Since you were throwing out some percentages there, what do you think the percentage is that A.J. Green gets traded this year?
Kind of like we've talked about briefly, not on the podcast, but same thing. That's a big contract to bring on with that franchise tag that they stuck on him. So I'm going to say 40% only because I know the Browns the Bengals will probably try to be shopping him. Now
you can shop him and you can agree to a trade, but you can make that trade contingent upon a new contract. So a team could bring him in and just negotiate a brand new contract with him because he's a contract. So you can bring him in and sign him to a much lower deal.
That's why I'm saying 40%. I know they're looking to shop him, but depending on what happens, his contract and his franchise tag, that is a lot of money to bring into your cap.
Yeah.
So if they don't get a deal done, I know it can be contingent on that, but if they somehow, they're going to have that deal worked essentially before it happens. I would say 40%.
Now, how about Julio Jones? What do you think? He's actually surprisingly been floated around frequently with on that rumor mill with the Falcons having the season they're having. Julio's not getting any older. He's 31. And with Matt Ryan getting older too, there's a lot of rumblings that Atlanta might just blow this thing up and start all over again. And Julio's might be a good way to bring in some draft capital potentially. So what do you think the chances are that they actually make this move?
Same thing with him. That's a big old contract to bring in. I'm pretty sure he signed like a 3-year, $66 million deal or something like that.
He did. 3 years, $66 million. He's on the contract's up in 2022. Actually 2023. He's got a $20 million cap hit this year, a $23 million cap hit next year, and then the next 2 years it goes down to $19 million. So you're gonna be paying this guy about $20 million.
You're paying him $20 million a year. He's not in the twilight yet, but he's 31 years old. Like, I mean, that's, he's in the back half. That's
and those injuries are starting to catch up to him little by little. He's getting nagging injuries. I don't think he goes anywhere.
He's still productive. I don't think he goes anywhere either because of that reason. It's going to be very hard to unload that contract on anybody at this point. So, yeah, I think he stays home. They're going to try and shop him, but even more the reason with that contract, I don't think it's going to happen. I'd say he's more like a 20% chance, even though they want to unload him, But in this case, like you said, it's much easier to restructure that franchise tag than it is the 3-year, $66 million deal. So,
now how about Odell Beckham Jr.? What do you think chances are he gets moved?
I think he stays too. The Browns like him. He doesn't seem to be causing any issues where he's beating up the kicking nets and the screens on the sidelines or anything like he got into there in New York for a little bit.
What a tragedy.
Yeah. So, I don't think he goes anywhere. He's got a pretty big deal too.
I don't like it. I think the Browns want to hold, are likely going to want to hold on to him. I feel like he has a pretty favorable contract for a team like the Browns. So when you compare a Julio Jones, 31 years old, making about $20 million per year, and then you take a look at Odell Beckham's contract, where he's averaging about $15 million a year, and he's 27 years old.
He's younger.
So you're getting a guy who's 4 years younger, and he's making $5 million less. That's not a bad contract to have, man, for a team of like Odell's caliber. So I don't think Odell really goes anywhere either. I think teams are going to call. I think it's going to at least take a second-round draft pick and then maybe a day 3 pick on top of that to acquire either of them. But it's not just the capital that it takes to get them. It's the contract that you got to absorb too. That means, I mean, that's going to become a focal point of your team going forward, and which means that you're not going to be able to re-sign other players on your team. So if you're bringing a guy like Odell or Julio in, they're going to be like a cornerstone piece of your franchise. I just don't see them getting moved. So
I'm with you on that. And with Odell too, the thing is, like with these other teams that we've talked about, they're pretty much in rebuild mode. The Browns are still essentially in it. They have a chance to make the playoffs this year, and you need those playmakers. So I don't see him going anywhere. He's still a playmaker. It's not like he's, even quite to that twilight of his career, if you want to call it that. He's not even. He's at 27. When receivers hit that 30, 31 mark, okay, but he's still got at least a few years left.
Yeah. So. Yep. Well, Ryan, I think this was a great podcast, a little impromptu podcast. Brought you some breaking news as well as some fantasy input and some advice on how to handle this Antonio Brown signing. We hope you guys make great informed decisions. If he's available on your waiver wire, go and get Antonio Brown.
Yes, go grab him. I think he will be a flex play the rest of the year. One other quick thing to end this. They have moved that Las Vegas Raiders game and Tampa Bay Bucs game to 4:05 instead of the night game on Sunday for reasons of COVID. We've seen it happening all year. And affected is that Raiders offensive line. So right now it is possible that the Raiders will have to start their whole second string offensive line. So if you have Derek Carr or you're thinking about playing Derek Carr, don't. If you have Josh Jacobs, you still got to roll that man out because he's Josh Jacobs. But don't expect RB1 numbers. It's going to be more like RB2, flex play due to what's going on. Unless some of those players can play, there's been so many rumblings and talks of what's going to happen. No one really knows at this point, but temper your expectations for him and anybody else on that Raiders offense. That's my ending thought.
All right. You heard it here first, guys. So good luck this Sunday. We hope you guys win your fantasy matchups. Me and Ryan will be back again next week with a brand new podcast for you guys to digest. So
good luck, everyone. Have a good weekend. Enjoy the games.
Have a good one.